This is a Dalarna University production.
Very welcome. I'm here with Mr. John Thackara, founder and director of Doors of Perception, and also the first of our inspirational speakers, opening up the discussion about the further discussions about the university new vision after 2015. Very welcome. I would like to ask, what would the living system you were speaking about, how can they interact with social entrepreneurship?
On the question of the connection between social entrepreneurship and living systems, I think it's really there are many opportunities for regular day-to-day life support systems like getting food, washing clothes, finding somewhere to live. If you look around for natural resources such as water or open ground or just materials that come out of nature, there are many, many ways in which innovative people today are using those to provide for their daily life needs. And so, to me, social innovation is not a choice to do something very exotic and different. It's 1,000,001 ways in which people are being creative just to meet the needs of themselves and their families. And when clean water, clean air, food, plants, and so on are part of their resource base, then there's a natural connection. So we're really making reconnections to the ways that people for thousands of years lived perfectly normally. That is to say, respecting natural systems and working to get their resources for their own use.
Is that also what you, when you say you refer to next economy, is that something which you, would that be a part of it, big part of it? This regional connection?
What I think the next economy is about meeting the needs that we have as far as possible from the resources of the region. That is to say, not just natural resources, but social resources, places that are maybe being underused, people with skills that are not properly deployed. I mean, for example, in this region, there are many immigrants from different parts of the world who are somewhat isolated. They often have very interesting knowledge about food, about looking after children, about new ways to make clothes or whatever. They can be part of the mix or the ecology of people helping each other to do things. The other thing I would say about the next economy is that it'll be much less based on high price, short life products and experience. It'll be more like longer term relationships between the people who make things and the people who consume them. Bread being an example. So in many parts of Europe, you have the notion of a community-supported bakery where the people who grow the wheat, the people who make the bread, the people who eat it, and the people who make it collaborate together in long-term relationships rather than, as now, we go into a shop and buy a loaf of bread and we have no idea where it came from.
Yes, and what about universities? How can they be part of this new economy and this kind of social entrepreneurship? What role can universities have in this kind, in helping or supporting the local units and the local region?
I think in this next economy that universities have 3 or 4 different things to offer. Firstly, they have space as public organizations for the most part, with meeting rooms, cafes, facilities and teaching facilities that are not available to people working in other kinds of activity or living in their homes. Secondly, universities have the potential to be very expert, not at telling people things, but at organizing conversations, so that if you come together, people from many different backgrounds to discuss a subject such as the future of childcare in the city, or how do we get more healthy food for our children, the university can help people meet and talk because it's a kind of a shared safe space. But thirdly, of course, universities have technical knowledge that the researchers and the lecturers have by way of their kind of backgrounds. This is also important, but what I'm describing is a world in which the technical special knowledge of a university expert is part of a bigger mixture rather than an end in itself.
What and how can a teacher gathering expertise for a long period of time, how can a university teacher contribute here?
I think that's a very good question of somebody who spent a lifetime becoming an expert in some scientific or liberal arts subject, suddenly confronted by people like me saying, well, universities have to be more at the service of the community broadly. There are 2 ways. One is that everywhere I go, I meet university teachers who have a subject that they do in their day job, and they have another passion in their private life, like food or children or sport or a public volunteer work. And I think that we're moving to, in the next economy, where this division between home life and work life will start to disappear. So that if you as a professor have a passion for growing food, for example, but your subject is history, I don't know how to connect the two things together, but it strikes me as being unnecessary that those two things be kept apart. So in lots of different ways, the private lives of university people and their professional skills that they can bring to the picture, the knowledge about the history of food, or the knowledge about the biochemistry of food, or the storing on the preserving of food, everybody has something to contribute, but rather than kind of saying, I'm the expert, here is what to do, it's more like a conversation in which people explore different possibilities.
And how do you think about the boundary between the region and the university, sometimes described as the ivory tower of research, and how do you think about how can these two connect, the university on one hand and the region, or bioregion, as you said, on the other hand?
I think it's very real that some communities regard the university as an ivory tower. But in my experience, and I go around a lot of universities and design schools, many of the professors and many of the students do not want to feel trapped inside. It's just they don't quite see how they're supposed to make contact with other people in their community. Because, you know, they're university teachers or they're students and they don't have maybe an obvious idea of what they can offer. But actually, there are lots of skills and activities that university people can do along with other people to, for example, organizing a coming together of people growing food, or coming together of people doing a car share scheme, or coming together of people organizing a local currency, in which everybody has different forms of knowledge that they put into the pot. So I think it's moving away from the idea that somebody in university is the expert on everything, or even on some special subject. A university person has expertise on several different areas to which they put to the common good in some kind of shared meeting where you actually exchange ideas on what the priorities are going to be.
What would be, or are there new skills for university in this, how to say, the emerging new system or of situation or next economy? What would the skills in the new skills for university be?
I think there are two kinds of skills that universities need which they don't have so much at the moment. The first is the skills of a bit like a newspaper reporter or an investigative journalist or somebody making a research for a film, to go out into the region and say, where are the interesting projects, people, stories happening that we maybe by staying in the university wouldn't hear about. In other words, being proactive and outgoing and looking for potential partners. The second skill, which is not so common, is how do you organize an activity like a project or a workshop when people from very different backgrounds come together, perhaps in a university space, perhaps somewhere else. That's a kind of hosting, coordinating, facilitating skill, which you can actually be taught these days, which there's no reason why a university professor should have these skills. Not many people are very good at organizing dinner parties or parties, for example, but that's the kind of comparison to make, is find people who have social skills, who can make somebody from outside feel comfortable and welcome and respected, who can make the university people feel that their knowledge is respected, and that everybody feels, yeah, this is a good place to be and we're all making a contribution. But that's a kind of, that skill set needs to be learned and made a priority. It doesn't happen by itself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you.